Rita and James, apparently there was an election somewhere in Australia last night. Now, did anything happen?
No, it wasn't much of a contest.
I fell asleep, seriously.
It was not much of a contest. And I've been telling you this on this station in print for months. This was going to be a landslide. It was always going to be a landslide. When you have no opposition, then you win elections and you win them convincingly. And that's precisely what Labor did. They did have some swings against them in their heartland, in the north and the west. But in areas where the Liberals really hoped to pick up some seats, in those important marginal seats in the east and the south, the swings were to Labor. So that's not that is disaster for Matthew Guy. There's no other way to put it. This is absolutely a disastrous result, a thumping loss last time around, just as bad pretty much this time. The Nationals did okay, but I don't think Matthew Guy can take any credit for that.
No, well, if you don't stand for anything, nobody's going to vote for you. This is the same old problem. If you do not stand clearly for something as a political leader, you have to stand, and the people got to know what you stand for. Otherwise, they won't vote for you.
Matty Guy and the Liberals in Victoria did stand for something, and they stood
for everything Dan Andrews stood for.
And so, so let's go back to the pandemic. Well, they never provided any sort of opposition to all of the horror show that Dan Andrews inflicted on the people of Melbourne and Victoria during the pandemic. Fast forward to the election, Victorian Labor, they were matching and beating Labor on climate change, free public transport, all of these things that are lefty policies. They kicked Bernie Finn out of the party room. Yep. They unpersoned another candidate for belonging to a church, that they didn't like. And yet the lesson, rather than go woke, go broke, which we keep saying over and over again on this show and have for years and years and years, the lesson that we are going to be told, and everybody out there, watch for this, because you see this in the op-ed pages and on the TVs, and everybody's going to be saying, well, the lesson for this is that, the Liberals have to move further to the left, and nothing further could be true.
Well, let me just point on that. Let me just make a point on that. If you look at Josh Frydenberg's, the equivalent of his electorate, which he lost to Monique Ryan at the federal election not long ago, this was the Teal victory there. If you look at Hawthorn and Kew, which are the two seats, the two state seats that represent Kooyong, the Teals failed. They spent a fortune there. They spent a lot of money there. Monique Ryan was supporting the candidates. Simon Holmes-A-Court was there wandering around. And the Liberals, it looks like, have taken both Hawthorn and Kew.
It's a bit too early to say.
It's too early to say, but certainly the Teal great victory that was supposed to happen there has not happened. So are we already seeing, Rita, some regret from Victorians about how they supported the Teals in the past, who have delivered nothing but wear some masks in Parliament or whatever she's on about? This, I
think the Teals have done pretty well at this election, and the Greens have done particularly well. So no, I don't think that's the lesson. But on what James was saying about the completely asinine analysis that we're going to get, that the Liberals will wholeheartedly adopt, just like they did last time. So the last time around, when they lost in a landslide, they had one tough, you could say, conservative policy, which was law and order.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that was pretty much it, they were very much small L Liberals who got smashed at the polls. The analysis was, well, you've got to leave your conservative ideology, you've got to go to the centre, you've got to go to the left. And this time around, I'm going to just get the popcorn out and see how they're going to come up with this analysis, because you could not get a more leftist coalition. This was WA Libs left. They signed up to the treaty.
And they keep
signed up to...
Exactly.
But no, this time around, they literally had no conservative policies, not even one like last time.
That's right, and that's why they lost. That's the whole point. If you don't stand for if you are the Conservative Party in Australia... Well, they're idiots, aren't they? If you're the Conservative Party in Australia, the party of Menzies, and you don't stand for solid conservative values, absolutely fore and front, then you are going to lose. Peter Dutton, listen and watch. You are going to lose. We've seen it in every single election. When Liberals move to the left, when Liberals become Liberal Light or Linos, Liberals in name only, woke Liberals, Birmingham Liberals, Bragg Liberals, you will lose. Sharma Liberals, you will lose. Zimmerman Liberals, you will lose. Wake up, Liberal Party, sit up and go, OK, we want to be a Conservative Party, and kick out every single member that will not espouse to core Liberal values. Otherwise, you are finished, because no one wants No one wants a left-leaning, liberal, woke party. Nobody. Thank you.
Well, Rowan, so
people want a choice. At the poll, you've got the left, you've already got the Greens, you've got the Teals, you've certainly got Labor. You need an alternative. Where is the debate on the big ideological issues? In Victoria, we had no debate because we had, like James said, the Liberals spending like drunken sailors. Their election promises were even bigger than Labor's. They were signing up to the most radical cultural policies from the trans. Some of the trans legislation in Victoria is like nowhere else in the world. Liberals were 100% lockstep with them. The environment policies, the emission targets, the treaty, there was really no
the lesson here, I'll just quickly say, the lesson here for Peter Dutton, very, very simple. Tomorrow morning, unless Peter Dutton and the Liberal Party come out and say, we oppose the voice, full stop. That's the lesson from yesterday, Peter Dutton. Come out tomorrow morning, we oppose the voice. We're a Liberal Party that is going to stand for conservative values. Unless you do that, Mr Dutton, you're going to go the same way as Matthew Guy.
Well, exactly right. But I mean, if you look at, just a couple of points. Number one, on the Teals, the reason why the Teals didn't do well is because they're essentially a Labour Party. So if you've got a Labour Party that's incumbent, they're not going to do well. Labour's going to do fine there, but just as with the last federal election, they did well because they're trying to evict the Liberals. But on the other side, the Nats did very well. Yes. And to me, this is about
as they did federally at the last election.
And remember also in 2016 when they were the ones who saved Malcolm Turnbull and kept Turnbull in the lodge in 2016. What does that tell us? Well, it means that if the Libs don't give people some sort of point of difference, as they did it in 2016 with Malcolm Turnbull, as they did it here with Matthew Guy versus Dan Andrews, then people will drift off to other parties.
And the joke is even the Nats failed to learn the lesson. I mean, they replaced Barnaby Joyce with that little to be proud of character, and he's sort of doing the same Matthew Guy type stuff. Let's do a bit of this, bit of climate, bit of treaty, all this stuff. Come on, guys, get out there, be conservative, be solid, and you will win elections, because the only alternative is losing them, which is what you're doing time and time again.
I switched over to the ABC just for a bit of fun last night. Apologise wholeheartedly.
You did it so that the rest of the nation did not have to.
One for the team. But it was interesting. The so-called Liberal opinionator there did precisely what we were speaking about. Oh, no, they've got to go more left. They've got to go more centre. They can't possibly pre-select any Christians or, that was pretty much the gist of it. Mind you, the Labor operative lobbyist who's also got a polling company, his analysis, I was shocked to say, was right on the money. I mean, his terminology wasn't fantastic, but he pointed out by the Liberals completely abandoning their constituents, they have lost again around 8 to 10% of their vote to what he called the alt-right, which is basically, anyone who's right of
and small business, family man, church man, etc.
Again, a lesson they haven't learned from Malcolm Turnbull, a lesson they didn't learn from the WA Libs. You can't just neglect your base and think, oh yeah, they'll do a protest vote, but then they'll give their preference back to us. No. They will vote for other options. They will go for Labor if you upset them enough, and they have done that again.
But I mean, that's that classic thing that's gotten the Libs in trouble, so often. That's that pollster sort of driven idea, that if you just everybody will come back. Well, they don't, and they have alternatives now, and there are many more minor parties, and part of the reason why is because people have been taken for granted. The other key thing about this too is that the Libs didn't focus on anything people cared about, like cost of living. Where was anything? You've got inflation for a year has been this huge concern bubbling up. What did we hear about that? Nothing. What did we hear about energy?
I'll tell you why. Because they signed up wholeheartedly to Labor's radical emission targets, which are bolder than Anthony Albanese's. So Labor is going to go into Victorian households. This is going to happen in Victoria, will probably happen in New South Wales down the track. And take away your gas appliances, your gas cooktop, your gas heating, because they're supposedly, at the cost of about $12,000 per household, mind you, more energy efficient electric options. There's questions about actually whether they are much more energy efficient, but this is the sort of crazy policy that we're down the road of. We've got massive reserves of gas in Victoria that we could be tapping into.
And you don't have to frack to get that out.
You don't even have
to frack. It is close to the surface.
But the Liberals are just so terrified of standing for anything, for possibly upsetting people who are never going to vote for them anyway, that they refuse to fight the election on the biggest issue in the country, cost of living and energy.
And good riddance to them. I'm sorry, good riddance to Matt Guy. In the same way, good riddance to Dave Sharma and the rest of them.
Who is going to be
let's get Tim Smith back into the Parliament. He's the only person who's got it now. David Southwick, what's his name, was quite impressive. We've got Brad Roswell.
No, he's not.
He wasn't? What about Brad Roswell?
I don't think David Southwick is at all the answer. Brad is a very... And Brad, last time...
he was supposed to come on the show this morning, but Liberal Party, I gather, said no, because otherwise he would be here.
Anyway, what are they scared of now?
I know.
The elections happened. Calm down. Actually, I don't know, do some... Oh, for God's sakes. I mean, we could talk here all day. We will move on. But the next leader has to be someone who is a politician of conviction with a backbone, who's got a belief system that they're not going to just bend with the wind. And they cannot, again, get another bedwetter who is too terrified to prosecute an argument to actually stand for
final point on this is that, what really makes me worried about what's going to happen down in Victoria, but also to all of Australia, is the fact that it seems to be right now human nature that we look around the world, see other people making mistakes, getting screwed by those mistakes, and then we're saying, well, we're going to have to wind up taking the same medicine. And things are going to get a lot worse in this country before I think people wake up to what is going on and that they're going to need to change. But of course, if you had parties that were presenting real alternatives to this, and, we don't really see that much at the moment, especially in Victoria, then, we're going to wind up in the same boat as California, Germany, England, Ireland, where I saw this week it now costs more to charge up your electric vehicle than to fill it with petrol.
I'm going to make the final point, James. That was the final point. No, the final point.
Penultimate final point.
Okay, exactly. Thank you very much. The final point is that we are going to see... we have to see in this country leaders of the sort of Georgia Maloney, Ron DeSantis and others who win extraordinarily well when they espouse solid conservative values. But the other final point is that let's see in Australia competition between the states. Let's see what happens. You mentioned, James, California and New York. Well, what's happened there? You have seen people fleeing California and New York to go and live in Florida. People leave and flee left-wing states to go to conservative states. It never goes the other way around. You watch the exodus from Victoria, Rita.
Final thought is mine. The women gets the final thought.
Well, you're a Victorian, Sheila, Victorian Sheila, final point.
But you're absolutely right about, and I love the fact that you use Ron DeSantis as an example, because this is a man who turned a purple state, so a state that was left-leaning in the eyes of many, and you could only have a moderate centre-left candidate who was going to be successful there. No, he has now turned that state, win it by 20 points?
Even Miami.
Miami-Dade, which is, again, very much a left-leaning, big Latino population. Why? Because he's, one, delivered results, but two, he is unashamedly conservative. He has beliefs.
And
he does, precisely who he is and what he believes in, James.
And if very quickly, if Dominic Perrottet wants to win the forthcoming New South Wales election, make New South Wales the state where woke goes to die. Stop embracing it. Punt Matt Keane. He'll bring you down, that Matt Keane bloke. Stand up for conservative values. You've still got time till March, and make New South Wales the state woke goes to die, and you'll see everyone of any sense leave Victoria and come here. And we welcome them.
And yet, Rowan, what we're going to see is, everybody saying, Matt Keane, you need more Matt Keane in New South Wales, you need more Matt Keane in Victoria. But the final point is that DeSantis, what he also does is he doesn't care what the media says.
Exactly.
And everybody here says, oh, no, the ABC is going to tell us up for being, alt-right or far-right or extremist or anything like that. And people like DeSantis say, no. You guys are idiots. What are you on about? Normal people don't believe what you're saying, and he makes the media an issue. It's very smart, and it could easily be done here.
It's not only smart, it's honest.
Perrottet could easily do it, but he's got to ditch Matt Keane.
The media, the conservatives in this country need to understand something Republicans have finally discovered is that it doesn't matter how weak and centrist and left and soft and appeasing you are. You could be Mitt Romney. They will paint you as a sexist, as a racist, as a bigot. And they did it this time around with the Matthew Guy opposition. This small liberal, absolute quisling party was still painted as some sort of conservative ogre. So forget about the media. Stand for something. Please pre-select people who actually believe in something and believe in something that's sound, rational and deliverable, and give people a real choice at the polls.
Small business, families, free enterprise, freedom. It's not difficult, guys. Now, let's end on a funny note. Dan Andrews is going to be immortalised with a statue.
Oh,
a bronze statue. Even more reason to flee Victoria, I would have thought, once that statue... Now, we were trying to work out earlier where this statue... Apparently, if you've served 3,000 days as a Premier, you automatically get a bronze statue in Victoria. We're trying to work out where to put this one. I nominate the garden in front of Zoe Buller's house, and maybe the statue could have Dan in pyjamas, you know...
What, in handcuffs?
And
no.
handcuffs.
No,
well, how about in one of the parks? Why not put the statue in one of the parks where people were arrested or thrown to the ground by the cops because they
kids were banned from playgrounds?
Or 5 kilometres away from home. Or the cenotaph. And then we could all pelt it with rubber bullets as the
guys,
people were.
We need to have the great helmsman tottering atop a plinth that is 2 little wooden steps that he's about to fall down.
On the Mornington Peninsula.
Yes.
That's
He is on his way. We've got to pay some tribute to Dan Andrews because he is on his way to being the second longest serving Premier in Victoria. That is no small feat. There's a lot of conjecture about whether he's going to hang around, but I think he will certainly hang around to 3,000 days to get the statue to become the longest serving Labor Premier. And who knows how well he would have done if he actually had some real opposition. But you can't doubt the fact that he is strategically very smart. He's got the media very well trained in that state, and he has almost complete control of the party. That's the thing. He has got his people in every position of influence and power in the party, in the bureaucracy, and we've got 4 more years of it, people.